Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from RealityArtPod, here to talk about my Week 2 player rankings of Big Brother 26. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description to my BB26 playlist where you can see my previous recaps and rankings. My rankings are weighted against the previous ratings, meaning unless the players really impress me or dissatisfy me, they usually won't jump too far from their previous ratings. If you like the video, consider liking and subscribing. So let's dive into it. I'm basing these ratings on how well the players are doing as of right after the Week 2 eviction. So firstly, we had to say goodbye to Lisa, who, had she stayed, I would have rated last. She would have come into this week with a huge target on her back, and the story of the week would have been the house guest trying to get her out again. Now that she's gone, the house guests have to figure out what they want to do next. In honor of Lisa's departure, if you disagree with my opinions in this video, I always get some kind of nasty comments on these rankings. If you're gonna leave a nasty comment, please call me a twit. Getting to my 14th place player this week, I have Kenny, who last week I had 15th. He left off last week dejected and at the bottom of the house, saying he wanted to go home over Matt, and now Matt's gone. At first, I didn't think Kenny wanted to go home anymore, but he definitely misses his family. He must care about being there since he's still there, and he's really just a piece of furniture in the house. He has some bonds in the house with people like Leah, but for the most part, he's just there. He talks a lot about quitting, but he's still there, and I fear that he'll be there for a while, and he could be dragged pretty far into the game, maybe get to a place where he becomes an important vote, but I really can't see a universe where Kenny wins the game. I still have him in last, even though he won the veto last week, which is good because he saved himself, but also not good because he showed the house that he can win stuff, which isn't good if you're a piece of furniture. I think there's a high chance that he asks to be voted out this week, but one of my favorite archetypes in reality TV is the person that wants to quit, but the other players won't let them leave. Maybe I'm sick, but I think it's hilarious. In 13th, I have Angela, who was also 13th last week. She comes out of her HOH in a pretty bad spot, worse than I thought actually, because Chelsea wins HOH and really has little doubt or guilt about putting Angela up right away, even though Angela did Chelsea a huge solid last week, keeping her off the block when Chelsea was powerless. So Angela goes up on the block, showing how expendable she is. She continues to be paranoid, getting herself into the debacle from the Wednesday episode, where she does clock the 3Cs and T-Core working together, but ends up getting herself into hot water with the house and making herself look really bad in the process, and further makes herself look bad by tormenting Lisa all week for really no reason because one of the two of them were going home. She just doesn't like Lisa. I feel like her behavior could actually help her get far because she's an easy person to drag to the end. I don't have her in dead last here because she has valuable information against Quinn still, and she seems to be very game-minded. She remains the only person in the house who's actually made a big game move so far. In 12th, I have Mackenzie, who last week I had 10th. I left off on a good foot with Mackenzie. She was telling people about her power, which is basically implied immunity for a while. She comes into this week and voted to keep Matt, which could have easily seen her be nominated and having her power flushed. She did play well, pretty much crawling up Chelsea's butt all week, and has really attached herself to the women, not really making good relationships with the men in the house. I think her power is great to get her through these weeks, and she obviously will be around for at least 2 more weeks, but I don't think she has much of a game plan after that unless the girls really team up and run things, and that's all banking on a very specific set of circumstances. I think she could also turn things around by winning an HOH soon after her power ends, but that same thing could be said for anybody. In 11th, I have Leah, who last week was 12th. I got a lot of comments last week saying Leah was rated too low on my list, to which I encourage others to post their rankings in the comments, and if this were a personality contest, I would have her higher, but I struggle to place Leah because she comes into this week being one of the 3 votes to keep Matt, which is a bad start, and that night she was really a frantic mess, trying to justify her decision to vote that way, and fearing going on the block, meeting with others to try to game plan her conversations with Chelsea, and I don't really think Leah did anything to keep herself off the block. She was mostly kept off the block because Mackenzie revealed her power to Chelsea, and then Leah and Mackenzie crawled up Chelsea's butt all week. They had girl time, and Leah started flirting with Cam. More on that later. She's built some good one-on-one bonds with Quinn, Kenny, the girls, and some others, but I feel like it's such a mixed bag that I can't really move her any higher. But this kind of completes my section of people who are in a bad place in the game, and I'm moving on to a section of players who are one bad move or conversation away from tanking their game completely, which could effectively move Leah up the ranks. In 10th, I have Quinn, who last week was 11th, another person who I was told I underrated, but where I left off, I felt like Quinn was playing messy and that this power was going to get exposed. Throughout the course of the week, he continues to build more alliances left and right, and even created a whole dramatic situation with Angela, where he ratted her out to the 3Cs and T-Core, which ended up causing a whole lot of house drama, and I know he wasn't planning specifically what happened, but you have to expect that Angela's gonna blow up. And I just don't get why he would piss off Angela, who has such big dirt on him. He's so messy, and it's not even part of a bigger plan. It's It's just like he wants to play crazy to make us happy. Then Angela exposes his power to Tucker, who seems cool with it because Tucker is trying to start an all guys alliance. But I really feel like in my heart that somebody in the house is going to be very upset at Quinn for lying about this power. There's got to be at least one person. Normally, I would put Quinn lower for the power getting exposed and the messiness, but I do think there's a chance that either nobody ends up caring about this, or if one or a few people care, that it's not enough people to really actually do anything about it, since Quinn does have a lot of alliances, but this house of cards could fall at any moment. In ninth, I have Joseph, who was 8th. We left off with him not being included in much besides the big collective alliance, and since then, that alliance has shown no signs of life, and Joseph rarely is involved in any of the game talk. I guess he's kind of associated with the guys because of his gender, but other than that, he's pretty hands-off in the game, and I'm not sure how much of this is intentional. He keeps himself active socially, often doing silly things and hanging out in groups, and his name comes up sometimes as potential nominations from some of them, but I think he's doing a good job overall in playing a low profile or just having a low profile for now. In 8th, I have Tucker, who was 7th last week. Tucker left off last week not wanting to pick sides. This week, he's been building on his relationships with Rubina, Chemo, T-Core. He's also hitched his wagon to a potential men's alliance that's never going to take off the ground. He's very opinionated, openly disliking Lisa, and telling Chelsea that he feels like they should try to flush Mackenzie's power, which all can get kind of messy, but nothing's really happened to change his standing in the house too much this week. I have to knock him for volunteering to go on the block because it just led to Chelsea not really considering her options too seriously and contributed to a lackluster week of gameplay, but he did end up showing out in the AI arena comp, which did end up looking really badass. In 7th, I have Cedric, who last week was 5th. He left off in a good place last week, being in the Pentagon Alliance and several other alliances, with the 3Cs being his main alliance still, but the Pentagon Alliance is going to crumble soon, especially because Quinn hasn't told anyone in this alliance about his power, and Quinn has mentioned that he wants to target Cedric. I can't help but feel like Cedric is going to be who Quinn wants to target with this power. Even if that's not the case, Cedric doesn't really butterfly around with game talk as much as he should if he wants to win the game. In 6th, I have Cam, who last week was 2nd. A bit of a fall here for Cam, who left off last week involved in a lot of alliances and was playing really low-key. For the most part this week, he continued to be low-key. Right before nominations, he was convinced by Mackenzie and Leah to go up on the block as a pawn, which he agreed to, which wasn't good. He's lucky that's forgotten about because Chelsea decided not to do it, and there was some showmance activity between him and Leah, openly flirting, and he was telling her he was having dreams about her, which when she reported this back to the women, it made Cam out to be a bit of a sketchy figure in the house who doesn't really have his head in the game. So I'm lowering him here, though I don't think his errors were that egregious. Like I said earlier, he's teetering on taking his game, but it's not quite there yet right now. In 5th, I have Brooklyn, who last week was 3rd. This starts a trend of a few players that I feel like are successfully playing under the radar. In the early game, it's best to be quiet and avoid becoming a target, though I've also found that these players often get lost in the shuffle and never really find the time to put their foot on the gas as they're waiting for the game to come to them. Brooklyn's very social and does have some game talk in her, but strong alliances are forming in the house without her, and I fear that her stock in the house diminished a bit this week, with Quinn clearly choosing the alliance of Chemo, Tucker, T-Core, and Rubina, and really leaving the rest of the Pentagon to deal with the fallout from whatever drama is about to come whenever these advantages are played. Brooklyn needs to find a good army and quick. In 4th, I have Rubina, who was 6th last week. Rubina has been flying surprisingly under the radar for someone who had such a big personality preseason, but she continues to build on her bonds, and she has a lot of people wanting to work with her. She's in good with the women, liked by America, and is in the alliance that Quinn trusts the most. That makes her pretty safe from all power shenanigans in the coming weeks. I expect more of the same from her for a little bit. I think she'll continue to be a coaster for a bit, and she seems to be a lock to make it far, as I don't think anybody's coming for her or would put her on the block anytime relatively soon. In 3rd, I have Chelsea, who was 1st last week, and this week she wins the HOH, saying that she won it by accident and didn't want Leah to win the HOH, so she won this to keep her alliance safe, and she did just that. She handled her HOH steadily and responsibly, hearing everyone out and finding out about Mackenzie's power. Then she almost let Mackenzie and Leah convince her to put Cam on the block, but she made the safe nominations, putting up 3 house pariahs, which she really got no blood on her hands as none of the nominees were mad at her about it. In fact, 3 out of 4 of her nominations asked to go up this week, and Cam and Cedric also volunteered to go up. The only person who didn't ask to go up was Lisa, and Lisa was evicted. Overall, Chelsea made it through the week without blowing up her own game, but I also don't really feel like she did anything to advance her game majorly, where I feel like this was an opportunity to make new alliances and set up a power structure that could really benefit her, and we kind of just go into week 3 down a player, but in the same place that we were at the beginning of the week. I was even tempted to put her in 1st again because she maintained the status quo, but I'm beginning to feel like the 1st place spot should be given to someone who actively played really hard and deserves an award. In 2nd, I have T-Core, who last week was 4th. At the end of last week, T-Core was building some momentum, but this week she became more respected in the house and has made her way into the Power Alliance, but we also saw that she has strong bonds with the 3Cs, which should help her be protected on all sides for a while. I really like how she handled herself in the drama with Angela, showing that she's not afraid to stand up for herself herself and she can communicate her points effectively. She has good backup to do whatever she wants, and she's a smart player. I could see her being number 1 soon, but she hasn't done anything too spectacular in the game that knocked me off my feet just yet. In first, I'm putting Chemo, who was 9th last week. I kept moving Chemo up and up my list as I was writing this. Chemo came into this week after winning the first AI arena competition and securing his safety, which gave me a lot of faith in his competition ability and showed the other players in the house the value of getting him on their side. The other players love him more and more every day, and none of them are coming after him. He's also the only person that Quinn trusted with his secret other than Angela, and he's kept the secret even from T-Core, which shows he can be trustworthy but also not, making him a super flexible player. I think he and T-Core are in the best place in the house right now, and when shit goes down, they're gonna be good. And between them, the fact that he has the most important piece of information in the house and she doesn't, at least as far as we know, it justifies the number 1 placement this week. So those are my rankings for week 2. Like I said earlier, if you disagree with me, call me a twit in the comments and post your own rankings. If you like the video, consider liking and subscribing. I do these every week. I'll be back on Sunday to talk about Big Brother nominations. Until then, have a nice weekend. Bye.